Hey there, baseball fans. Nathan Rohde and Shooter Hunt joining you for another episode of Coffee and Curveballs. Over the next several weeks, we're going to be talking recruiting classes, starting today with the SEC West. We're going to go across some of the Big Five conferences as well as some mid-majors, looking at their 2018 recruiting class, the guys that are seniors in high school now and expecting to get to campus the following fall. We'll talk about the implications the draft may have on these classes and who the programs can expect to see on campus a year from now. So like I said, we're starting off with the SEC West, going alphabetically in order. So Alabama is first up. Shooter, looking at this class, Brad Bohannon kind of, getting his feet wet in Alabama. How do things look for the Crimson Tide over there?
Well, Coach Bohannon came over from Auburn, of course, and he's well known across the country as one of the top recruiters. And just seeing him out on the road and seeing the work that he puts in, I know he's going to do a great job in Tuscaloosa. But one of the things that I was excited for him was when a new coach comes in, usually it can be tough to hang on to some of the recruits that the old staff had gotten. You might lose some guys. And, we know it very well, how quickly and early these kids are committing. You're almost 3 or 4 years behind if you're a new head coach.
Absolutely.
But he was able to hang on to one of the top guys, Tyler Rass, from New Jersey, going down to Alabama. I saw him last summer up to, I want to say 95 or so. It's a long arm, kind of funky coming out, but I think he actually may have a chance to throw upwards of 98, 99 in the future if he makes it to campus looking at the draft. Do you think he's a draft type guy?
He's definitely a draft type guy. He's in the PBR Draft 100. It's a northeast arm. Those guys always get a little bit more love because of the perceived, freshness that they have on the arm and the upside. He's definitely a guy that scouts are going to be looking at, and I'm sure Coach Bohannon's going to be sweating it. His staff's going to be sweating it, right up until the final day, especially if he turns in a good season. But he's not a slam dunk guy for me. So he's one of those guys that, if you're looking at him as being the top recruit, I think that's pretty good because you have a chance of getting a guy like that on campus. He's one of those middle guys that, I'd be on the fence about. I'm not going to put money down that he's going to fall one way or the other. If he does sign out of the draft, it wouldn't surprise me. If he does end up on campus, it wouldn't surprise me. So obviously having that for Alabama and an arm like that with that kind of upside with a chance of getting him on campus is obviously pretty good.
And Jacob Kelsner is another one, a kid from PA, big left-hander who reports from this fall, from our boots on the ground, were up to 94 from the left side. So I think Coach Bohannon might be sweating that one out as well come springtime. But Alabama's another team where I think a lot of JUCO guys they'll have to go after early just because so many of these high school kids are committed. The junior college route's going to be where they go. But their 19 and 20 classes are already starting to build up, and this 18 class is a nice class.
Sure. And just on Kelchner real quick, that's a guy that I certainly, even though I don't have my own eyes on him yet, so I can't really speak to him like I can Tyler Rass, but that's definitely one that I would sweat about, especially considering that he's left-handed and a northeast arm. So much we see in baseball of kind of the "what have you done for me lately" attitude. And some of these arms, they come on strong late, and they might not have the same track record as other arms. And for whatever reason, those guys, really make those jumps and jump up boards. So that's definitely one that I'd be sweating about as well. He's not in the PBR Draft 100 right now, so not a high draft guy as of yet. But in the springtime, if he comes out and has a good season, that's definitely one that Alabama could be worried about. But
for sure.
Shifting on to our next team, and that's the Razorbacks in Arkansas with Coach Dave Van Horn. Nate Thompson's the recruiting coordinator there. Pretty good looking class here. Christian Franklin, Liam Henry, Wade Beasley, all, not in-state guys because, a couple Missouri guys there, but certainly from the region that Arkansas is in. Some good local talent out there that the Razorbacks have been able to tap into.
For sure. And then another school that lost their recruiting coordinator, Tony Vitello, now at Tennessee. But this was a big class that had a lot of talent, and they've held on to a lot of it. And come the draft time, I think they'll be sweating it out again as the SEC. It comes with the territory. When you have players that are this talented, you're going to have to worry about the draft a little bit.
Right.
But this is a deep class, and you talked about Franklin. Speed at the top of the lineup. That's a guy who could hit in the leadoff leadoff hole while playing center field, stealing bags, and along with him, another Missouri guy, Liam Henry, that you talked about, being a two-way guy who could also be an elite one. And then one of the late pickups that Arkansas got was one of my favorite players, was the MVP of the Future Games 2 years ago from Connecticut, Dylan Lifrieri. Super athletic outfielder, can also play a little third base, run, hit, takes big hacks, which he'll very much enjoy those short porches at SEC. But he's one of the players that I really liked. Along with some of those arms like Wade Beasley, who I know you've seen a little bit, and the draft. Where does he fit in the draft wise?
Well, he's got that arm strength, so he's going to light up the radar guns. So he automatically gets attention off of that. But it's more of an advanced frame. It's not as not your prototypical projectable guy. So you're not. It's not like you're going to see him pop a 94 and think that he's going to throw 100 one day. I do think that there might still be a little bit left in there, so maybe he will throw harder. But it's not that uber projection that we typically see out of the high school right-handers that scouts are going to really dream on. So I'm not going to count it out that he signs out of the draft, but he's not. I don't think Arkansas is really going to be sweating too much over losing him to the draft. I think they could get him, and that's not a knock on him, because with his arm strength and his stuff, he can certainly come into Arkansas and be an impact guy right away as a freshman.
Yeah, that 2018 Arkansas high school class is really strong with some pitching. So there's several players who are, pro scouts will be heading into Arkansas to check out during the spring. But one sleeper that I like from Florida is Tyler Eisenberg. Now, I saw him the end of the spring last year, and the reason I like him is his feel for his slider, where, hey, if Coach Van Horn wants to go to the pen, Tyler's going to come in, and he's going to be able to throw that slider for a strike, get some swings and misses for the Razorbacks, which is key in SEC, to get swings and misses and be able to come in with runners on and not be scared. A Florida kid who's been in some tough situations. So he's one for Arkansas fans to keep following as he's on campus.
Certainly. And then moving on, once again, it seems like a kind of a theme we're talking about here in a change at the recruiting coordinator position. Auburn is next up, in that they lost Coach Bohannon to the head coaching job at Alabama. So now Carl Nunemaker's in there. But still, again, you're looking at a class that's held on to some good recruits. Starting at the top with left-hander Garrett Wade, who I just saw in Jupiter. He was in the Under Armour game. He's definitely a draft guy to be keeping an eye on. But again, not for me a slam dunk. So I do think that there's at least a solid chance Auburn could land an arm like Garrett Wade, which would be really good for them.
Yeah, and I think Wade would be good to go to school too, because Coach Thompson doesn't. There's few in the business that are as good with pitchers as he is, and I know Coach Nunemaker personally. He's been doing a great job everywhere he's been, including Monmouth University, where my brother went. So kudos to him.
Jersey bias, here it comes again.
But he's done a great job, and even Coach Thompson, another new coach. This is going to be his second year, I believe, coming over. But with recruiting wise, it's having to pick up again and hang on to some recruits and try to get other ones that come in late. But again, I usually look at the underclassmen. Auburn's 19 class, pretty special right now. So keep an eye out for that too.
A year from now, I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more in depth about the Auburn Tigers. But speaking of Tigers, shifting now to Louisiana State, who seems to always have a big-time class. And the question it really comes down to is, how much of it are they going to get? We know they're always going to have the top prospects, but come June, are they going to be gutted, or are they going to be feeling pretty good? We know it's LSU. They're always going to compete with no matter what players they get on campus, but it really is a difference between, are they going to be elite, or are they going to be kind of one of those sneaky competitive teams at the top. Right off the bat, you're looking at Bryce Terang being their top recruit. Guess what, Louisiana State? I'm sorry, you ain't getting him. Bryce Terang is signing. He's going in the first round. The chances of him ending up on campus are almost zero. I don't ever count anything out because, like Brady McConnell this time last year, I would have said there's no chance the Florida Gators are getting him. Guess what? He's on campus. But the chances of Bryce Terang showing up on campus are pretty close to zero.
Yeah, when we started going over LSU's recruiting class, I wrote down this is one of the most athletic and dynamic recruiting classes that I've ever seen.
Certainly is,
Just going
yes.
right down the list, you're looking at Tarang, Elijah Cabell, Landon Marceau, C.J. Willis, Jaden Hill, Levi Kelly, Cole Henry. It goes on and on. But let me stop you there. Tarang may be going, but there's a name that LSU fans may be familiar with. Bianco is going to be coming to campus. So Drew Bianco, son of Mike Bianco, the head coach at Ole Miss, is headed to Baton Rouge. And we've got to see him in Jupiter and even last year. And being the son of a coach is always a good thing. And you should feel comfortable with a kid like that who can swing it. Again, he's going to really enjoy those short porches of the SEC from the right side. But just really a heady player who makes big plays in big situations, which LSU fans are used to.
Yeah, and I know obviously his dad's a coach at Mississippi, but they had an agreement as a family that he was going to play somewhere where dad was not coaching, just to kind of broaden his horizon and his exposure to the game and instruction. But if you put that aside, if his name is Drew Smith or Drew Johnson, I look at this guy in the field and I think LSU recruit. You know, he's got a solid frame. He's got the fundamentals down. He takes aggressive hacks, and he's got power at the plate, but that's not really his game. He can use the whole field. He definitely looks like an LSU recruit to me. He's going to make it on campus, and the Tigers are going to love this guy. He's going to be a really good player and contribute for them for at least 3 years.
Well, it's one of those things where I always talk about there's that magic that happens when you put on an LSU uniform. It's kind of, as a Yankee fan, it always used to be in the ghosts would come out at Yankee Stadium, and they just would help the Yankees rise. The same thing happens at LSU. At the box, kids put on that uniform, and they play even better than their talent. Gavin Dugas, Ry Gunter, Kate Beloso, Wilbur Pohl, all guys that I think are going to get on campus in Baton Rouge. And it's going to be one of those similar to a Mason Katz from a few years ago, who all of a sudden is just hitting bombs after bombs after bombs. And they're just going to continue to rise their level of play to match the other greats of LSU. But I wanted to ask you a little bit more about their draft guys who, if these were all the dynamic dudes who, if they make it to campus, you're talking about a top-ranked recruiting class, top 1, 2, or 3. But Elijah Cabell, Florida kid, what do you got on?
I'm on the fence as to whether he signs or not, simply because he has the stigma of being a right-handed hitting high school outfielder. And the track record on those guys is not great. He does have some explosive tools. He's really quick hands, so the ball jumps off his bat. He is a plus runner, so you are talking about he has the chance to stay in center field, but it's not a slam dunk. So kind of on the fence as to where he could go. Neither way I'd be more surprised if he ended up on campus. I lean toward him signing out of the draft, but again, crazier things have happened. Landon Marceau, I'm going to say he gets to campus. He's not that big, sexy right-hander that you typically see go high out of the draft. What he has going for him is the moxie and the polish. Scouts are going to love him. It's just a matter of, are they going to be willing to pay him enough to prevent him from putting on that LSU uniform that guys in Louisiana dream of doing from the time that they can crawl. So that's going to be a big question.
Marceau's a guy for me where it's like this guy may win 30 games at LSU, and that's no joke. He may step on as a freshman and start on Saturdays or Sundays and win almost every time because his command of the fastball, end of his curveball, end of his changeup. I think he's throwing the slider now too. He puts it wherever he wants.
Right.
And to be able to do that I know LSU's using those advanced metrics where they can shift guys, but he can also get swings and misses. I mean, 30 wins is not out of the question for him.
No, and he's also one of those guys for me that I know scouts are going to really like him. But they're probably going to be okay with letting him go to school. And he's one of those guys, because he's a 6-foot right-hander, he's not 6'5", 200 pounds or whatever. He's going to have to prove it over and over again. And scouts are going to look at him and say, you know what? You're going to LSU. That program has a track record for developing guys. I know you're going to compete in big situations. If you go there and I have to pay you in 3 years, I'm okay with it. Because
Yeah.
you're going to have that track record of pitching for LSU in the SEC, competing to go to Omaha every year. You're going to have all of that stacked up for him in 3 years, which will make you probably more comfortable in giving him a couple of $1 million. But, we'll see come June.
Now, can you say the same for Jaden Hill, right-hander from Arkansas, and for Cole Henry, a right-hander from Alabama?
Those guys have a little bit more projection going for them. I wouldn't be surprised to see Jaden Hill sign.
Okay.
He's got a lot of upside. I know there's some guys that are speaking of him really highly. When I was doing my initial PBR Draft 100 rankings and kind of was getting some feedback from some friends in the industry, they said it was way low on Jaden Hill. Some guys had him in the top 20 in the country. So pretty electric arm. He's a big physical kid, so it's a durable body. So I don't think LSU will get him. Again, like I said before, crazier things have happened, but I would bank on moving on from him and that he's in pro ball a year from now. Cole Henry, what LSU has going for them is the fact that he was banged up over the summer and didn't really get to pitch all that much, so there was a really short look at him in the fall from scouts. So the health is a question with him that will be brought up throughout the spring. So it's really going to come down to how he performs in the spring. So I would lean toward him making it to campus right now. But he does have the stuff to completely change that.
If you could get 2 of those 3, you're talking about 2 possible weekend arms in this class.
And that's the thing. And that's what separates LSU from a lot of other programs across the country. You talk about Florida, you talk about Vanderbilt, you talk about LSU, all kind of in the same breath. They're going to lose guys to the draft, but if they ever get like even just a couple of those guys out of the draft class, and then you look at that second tier, like we were talking about with LSU, with Bianco and Dugas and Gunter and Beloso and Rapole, if you get all those guys plus a couple of the draft guys that slip for whatever reason, that's why those teams stay at the top year in and year out.
Yes, without a doubt. And I don't want to throw it out here or forget about saying, but C.J. Willis is a guy who LSU picked up kind of late, I guess. But having a catcher like him, that athletic, but I know he's pretty high on your draft 100
Yeah,
as well.
he's pretty well up there. If I was LSU, I probably wouldn't bank on getting him. There's obviously a chance that they will, but I wouldn't be holding my breath.
Fair. Now, but speaking of Coach Bianco, heading over to Ole Miss, a little bit up the road, but they also have a pretty good class because it's led by Joe Gray, who is very, very high on your draft 100. What number is he at?
He's in that top 30-ish range, 30, 35. Okay. Opened a lot of eyes last summer, playing as an underclassman in a lot of big events. Electric tools. I mean, he just walks out on the field and you're like, that guy, I'll take him. He looks like a wide receiver. It's really wiry and athletic. He takes big hacks and the ball jumps off of his bat. He lacks polish to his game, which, we say for a lot of high school guys, so that's not necessarily a big deal. But the tools are next level. So I would bank on not seeing him in Oxford.
Well, fortunate for Ole Miss, and this class was a smaller class for them because, as Ole Miss fans know, that 2016 recruiting class was so big, and most of them were freshmen last year and got a lot of time. So for the next 2 years, you're going to be seeing all those guys playing, which is why the 2019 class is shaping up to be a larger class in Oxford.
Right, absolutely. So shifting within the state, looking at their rivals, Mississippi State, for me, this is my favorite class in the SEC West, and quite possibly could be the top recruiting class in the country. Just simply looking at the names. That doesn't take into consideration as to who actually is going to end up on campus. But if you look at the list of recruits for Andy Cannizaro, Jake Gautreaux, and Coach Henderson at Mississippi State, it is a who's who of top prospects in the country.
It's the law firm of Ginn, Wynn, and Stewart leading the way. The top three going Friday, Saturday, Sunday night if they make it to campus. But obviously, the two of us love those arms.
Yes.
I mean, Carter Stewart's breaking ball is probably the best secondary pitch in the draft. It's one of the best. But the rotation and just his long, loose arm makes him an immediate impact arm. And similar to him, Cole Wynn, who we've raved about on past shows, so I don't want to go too much into him, but he's an immediate impact arm weekend guy. And then Landon Ginn, you've seen a bunch.
JT Ginn is one of my favorite guys in the country. I think I'm the high man of people that do rankings, and maybe even among the scouts. 'Cause I don't have everybody's pref list, and some guys have told me that they do really like him. But I might be the high man on Ginn in the country, but I don't see how you can look away from three pitches that are, two of them I would say are plus. One of them I think has a potential to be plus in his changeup, and it's a durable frame. I mean, the kid looks like a starter to me. Some guys might, try to say he looks like a reliever. It's not a big projectable body. It's a little bit, advanced. But for me, he's a frontline guy. So I'd be all over him if I'm a pro scout trying to sign him early. I would not bank on getting him to campus if I'm Mississippi State. Nor would I with Wynn and Stewart, although that would be a big time coup if they did. And to go back to something I learned recently, spin wins, Shooter. I don't know if you know that, but spin wins. So Carter Stewart is your Friday night guy for Mississippi State because he has the best breaking ball spin in the country.
Hey, you know what? It would be a flip of the coin. Coach Cannizzaro, just grab out of the hat. Who's starting tonight? Ginn, Stewart, Cole Wynn. Just pick it out. If those guys get to campus, though, that's a program changer.
Absolutely.
That's all of a sudden, hey, Stark Vegas, we're moving to Omaha. That's, just let's camp out here. We'll just get a straight plane direct here. There's more after them. It's not just the three of those. You go down the list, you're looking at Jeremiah Jackson, who we both saw at Jupiter, who is extremely athletic, put together. You know what? I was really impressed with the way he saw pitches at the plate as a leadoff guy for that East Coast Sox team.
Which is a big improvement for him because he was showing a lot of swing and miss tendencies over the summer. So to see his approach in Jupiter and him make more consistent and solid contact was definitely a big step for him.
For sure. And one of my favorite players in the country right now is out of Indiana, Hayden Jones, a catcher. Just his leadership qualities, and he's a left-handed hitting catcher with a bazooka behind the plate. But the way he handles a staff, and he was with that Team Indiana team in Jupiter, and we saw him a little bit during the fall. But being with some big names and being kind of the guy there that holds everything together is going to be important for Coach Cannizzaro, Coach Gotro, and the staff down in Starkville to have and handle these pitchers moving forward.
Yeah, and he's a plus defender. He's a guy that definitely contribute right away in the SEC and hold his own. Whether or not he makes it to campus, I'd say it's 50-50 right now. High school catchers they're tough. They don't have a great track record, but they also do get picked higher than usual because they are considered a commodity. And then you throw in the fact that he's left-handed hitting, it makes him even more attractive. So that's a tough one. It wouldn't surprise me if they got him on campus in Stark Vegas. But at the same time, they're going to be sweating that one right up until the draft, I think.
I'm sure they'll be monitoring that draft process very closely for all of those guys. And similar to another catcher from high school, moving on to the Texas A&M recruiting class, their top recruit is Noah Naylor, who's out of Canada. If the name sounds familiar, why does that name sound familiar?
Well, his brother his brother was a first round pick just a couple of years ago.
Well, there you go. So he could follow in those footsteps really easily. So he may not end up in College Station, unfortunately. A&M
I don't
fans,
think he will.
But guess what? You're still going to be okay.
Yeah,
because
it is a very good class. Jonathan Childress, one of the top left-handers in the country, may not end up on campus, but he could. Joseph Menifee, pitched for Team USA. Is a pretty strong-bodied, left-handed arm. I think he could get to campus. Hunter Watson, I think could get to campus. Power bat that you have there at the hot corner. Brandon Birdsell, pretty projectable and electric stuff. There's a chance that he could make a leap in the spring and kind of not be a factor for Texas A&M because he'll go in the draft. But even still, this class is a pretty good one for the Aggies.
Well, this one's my favorite because of the depth of it. And I mean, Texas A&M, Coach Childress and Coach Steele with the recruiting, they've just built themselves into, you can count on it. Mm-hmm. If a kid's committed to Texas A&M, they've done their due diligence, and that kid's pretty good, or he's really good. And even after those top guys, the Nailers, Childress, who could be lost on this, you're talking about Miko Rodriguez, a kid from Michigan who was really well put together. Mm-hmm. Super athlete, can really swing it. He don't get cheated up there, I'll tell you that much. Mm-hmm. And then Mason Engler, Ty Coleman. You're talking about the real Texas arms who are throwing hard breaking balls, who get the swings and misses. And I'll tell you one place that I wouldn't want to pitch. It's in College Station because ball one, they would get going on that. I'd be like, you know what, Bluebell Park, I'll go eat my ice cream in the locker room now.
Yeah, that is probably one of my favorite college baseball gimmicks out there is the ball five. That it's fantastic. It's original and it's incredibly intimidating. So, definitely not a place that I would want to pitch if I'm a visiting arm, is obviously. So, for sure. But that's a good look at the SEC West. On the next Coffee and Curveballs, we'll take a look at the SEC East, and then we'll move on to other conferences. After we finish up each conference, we will kind of go a little bit more in depth and jump onto a podcast and talk about each conference and talk about some of the deeper players in the recruiting classes. So be on the lookout for that. But then obviously, we'll move on to conferences like the ACC, the Big 12, and even look at some programs that are mid-majors whose recruiting classes we really like. But until next time, he's Shooter Hunt. I'm Nathan Rohde. This is Coffee and Curveballs, and we'll see you guys at the ballpark.